I have seen many leaders transform the way they have conversations to take it out of the assumption mode and into the curiosity, being in discovery mode. How do I have bold curiosity? What questions can I ask to be curious with in the workplace today for my team so that I'm increasing efficiency, effectiveness, and just the overall general well-being of the whole? Hey friends, welcome into the Sandbox. I'm Tammy J, the host of the Leadership Sandbox podcast, and excited to have you join me today as we're diving into episode 69 on how to stop assuming and start asking questions. And there are two powerful words in that whole line: assume and ask. Assume and ask, or well, actually there's four, because then there's stop and start, which I do like stop and start as well. Stop assuming, start asking questions. And you're probably going, okay, Tam, yeah, so why? Well, the reason is studies show that over 60% of workplace conflicts are from miscommunication. According to a survey by the Society of Human Resource Management, or SHRM, right? Everybody knows SHRM. You probably got members of SHRM in your company. Often assumptions are the silent culprits behind breakdowns, right? Behind these miscommunication breakdowns. And assumptions don't just block clear communication, they stifle growth, they stifle trust, and they stifle innovation. They're giving us the exact opposite of what we say that we stand for often in our teams. And leaders who challenge their own assumptions and take an assessment of self to identify where I might be assuming too much, right? And they practice what I love is bold curiosity. You become not only more effective, but also those leaders become more inspiring to those around them. And they up-level the performance factor of their teams. Hey, leader, if you're navigating tough conversations and it feels like a struggle, I want you to know I've got you covered. I've got your back. I've created a communication starter pack designed to give leaders and managers the tools that they need to communicate with confidence, clarity, and real impact. So I want you to head on over to bondgroupenterprises.com and grab your starter pack today. It's time to lead conversations that matter and get the results you deserve. I have seen many leaders transform the way they have conversations to take it out of the assumption mode and into the curiosity, being in discovery mode. How do I have bold curiosity? What questions can I ask to be curious with in the workplace today for my team so that I'm increasing efficiency, effectiveness, and just the overall general well-being of the whole? See, there's an assumption action gap, I call it the assumption action gap. So when we have assumptions that are unchecked, it leads to decisions that are misaligned with reality, and there becomes the gap. We have assumptions that are unchecked or unverified, and it leads to decisions that are misaligned with reality, which ultimately leads to lower performance or breakdown, or, in some cases, I had one leader who was not aligned with one very key department, and they made assumptions that there were strategies that were being implemented based on one conversation that was had, only to find out the manager didn't implement the strategies and they were missing sales goals by a significant number at the end of last year. And what happens when we make assumptions? It leads to decisions that are misaligned with reality. Making an assumption that a manager has it and not following up, not because we're micromanagers, but to just check in and ask. And our responsibility as leaders is to ask for updates. Tell me how you're doing with. Tell me what more I can do to support that. When we're asking those kinds of questions, we're now going to make sure that we stay aligned with not making an assumption, but aligned with reality, right? So here's an example. Assuming a team member understands their role without asking could result in unmet expectations and lost productivity and frustration. We know that. So why are we not asking? That's the thing for me. What stops us? If we can identify one recent decision that you've made based on an assumption and then reflect back on it, what was the outcome? And then ask, what could I have asked to clarify my understanding, right? Or my expectation. You know, I'm all about clarity of expectations. It's one of the key changes every leader can stand to make, because I promise you, you might have super high performing teams. And then I'm going to be asking you questions about not just their productivity, but their engagement level. And I'm going to ask you questions about turnover, because then we get into clarifying and understanding what's the difference maker I can do. Where have I made some assumptions? How can I reflect on the outcomes of that? And then asking, what could I do or ask different to clarify my expectations, so that I am up leveling the success factor for my team, for my people. It really ultimately, friends, it just calls for bold curiosity. Just calls for bold curiosity. Bold curiosity as a superpower, right? Like, I want a cape that says bold curiosity on it. I'm probably going to make a t-shirt that says bold curiosity. I am always about bold curiosity. I have been, so like, probably my whole life, right? It's about how we adopt curiosity to challenges, versus, but because it can challenge our biases, and it opens up those unexpected outcomes and opportunities just by being curious. And it starts with simply saying, I'm curious. What am I missing here? I'm curious. What more are we missing? What might we be missing? I'm curious. How does the team see this situation? I'm curious what you're expecting for an outcome. And you can give an assignment. I did this with a team. Oh, this was really tricky. It wasn't tricky, it was powerful. I did this with a team because I could see that an individual on the team was absolutely the underperformer, but everybody kind of kept giving him a pass. And she kept getting a pass for being the underperformer for all different reasons. Every single team member had their own reason. But when it came to setting goals for the future of what we want to be known, seen, and celebrated for, it became evident that that one person, that one manager on the team, that she was really underqualified to be able to get and accomplish the tasks that were before them. And instead of the leader asking the question, the team actually came to him and said, hey, how do we want to address this situation? She seems over her skis. She seems like she's not ready. She seems like she's not able. But the leader was just believing what they were hearing, and from the one contributor. But when the many started asking, and I did that in a team of, hey, so how do you all see this situation? And they started speaking up, even in front of the one individual, but they did it in such a caring way. It was so cool. They were saying, hey, we'll call her Sandra. Sandra, here's what I'm noticing. I'm wondering, how do you see this? And they got really bold with what they were being curious about, to expose that Sandra was over her skis. Because often we get, with bold curiosity, we get to uncover some of those hidden insights to drive better outcomes. And if you aren't able to do it, release your team to help you with doing it. Right? That's one of those things that can transform and build trust and help people to feel more connected in the workplace. Because when that happened, the leader was then going, oh, I made some assumptions based on what she was telling me. And I see where that was faulty thinking. And it led to them having the opportunity to have a conversation with the whole team about where else they might have done that as a leader. And they asked for open, authentic feedback from people, one-on-one and as a group. And it was a breakthrough solution for that leader and for the team. But it was partly because the team took on the bold curiosity where the leader couldn't. Think about that for a minute. That's a powerful tool right there. Now, I love my mirrors, right? I love to share with you the little mirror. And I tell you, if you've got a problem, look in the mirror. What's looking back is the solution, and perhaps the problem. The mirror effect of this situation of assumptions is this: assumptions often reveal more about us than others. So it reveals more about what I'm seeing looking back than it does about what I'm seeing looking outward. So, for example, if you assume that someone is disengaged, right, it might reflect your own fear of disconnection. Hello, somebody. That was a word for somebody right there. If you assume that someone is disengaged and we're not asking the questions, it might reflect your own fear of disconnection. And by confronting that assumption, boldly, curiously confronting it, you grow in not just self awareness and emotional intelligence, you grow in that ability for others to see you as somebody who's being transparent in the work that you're doing on yourself first. I say this, y'all, we got to work individually on the challenges that we face ourselves and then go to the whole. You hear me say it pretty much at the end of maybe not. You hear me say it a lot. Lead yourself well before you lead others. That's what we teach here at the Leadership Sandbox. That's what we teach with our training courses. That's what we teach through the coaching that we provide. True, authentic coaching. Not, I'm going to tell you, but I'm actually going to ask you powerful questions because I do believe you're whole, capable, creative, and resourceful to answer the question that you have, or at least to then ask for the supports that you need. And then we identify who the people are that can support you in getting the answers that you need. But through our programs at the Leadership Sandbox, we are absolutely committed to creating self-awareness, emotionally intelligent people that are able to be curious and be in discovery and lead themselves well first before they try to lead others. Now, you might be saying, Tam, I'm already in a leadership role. Cool. You probably are. That's awesome. And you can still go back and reflect in the mirror, right? And look at what it is that you want to course correct in you, transform in you, get that mentoring in you, get the tools and the skill sets to communicate and ask better questions, which are so important and imperative in leadership today so that you develop yourself. So here's an action step. I want you to get a piece of paper out and I want you to list 3 common assumptions that you make about others. That's it. And I want you to ask for each of them. I want you to ask, what does this assumption reveal about my own mindset, my BS, also known as belief systems here in the sandbox, just so that you know, don't get offended. I want you to ask, what does it reveal, right, about my belief system, my BS? What does it reveal about my mindset? What does it reveal about my self-talk? What does it reveal? What does this assumption reveal about how I see me? Ask yourself that for each of the 3 that you're listing out. It's called doing an assumption audit. And it's something, the tool that we've created here that I want to make available to you. You're going to be able to click on the link in the show notes to download your copy of an assumption audit. It's a really simple little tool to create a simple habit for you as a listener, for you as a leader, for you as a manager, whoever you as an individual contributor in this world, right? Which we celebrate. We want you to have this little simple tool. So before any significant decision or conversation that you're going to have around assumptions that you believe that you have, right? I want you to pause. I want you to take a moment and I want you to get the download and do your own audit of your assumptions. And I want you to ask, what do I think I know? What am I unsure about? What could I ask to gain clarity? Right? Incorporate that practice into the team meetings as well. When your team gets to actually share their answer to those questions, you can do an assumption audit when you download it, share it with your team. And you can use it as a tool to foster that transparency that we talk about ad nauseum. That's so important. I know it, but sometimes there's certain words. Have you noticed, friends? I have certain words. Transparency is one of those words, but I think it's important. I have certain words that I think we overuse. Engagement, transparency, but it's everywhere. And so I'm not going to not use them. I'm just going to say, so what else is it? What else do you want to foster? Truth telling, right? We have our core pillars here at Bond Group Enterprises. One of them is cultivating excellence, right? And always telling the truth, right? We are consistently, I want to say that differently. We are compelled to be truth tellers, because what's important about that for ourselves is that we're also truth tellers to our clients. So we get to expose the things that sometimes are just really hard to look at. And if I'm not committed to being a bold truth teller with grace and love, then guess what? Then I'm not going to be of service in the way that I know I'm called to be of service. So I want you to get ready to use this assessment as a tool for creating that yes transparency, so that as you're going through and doing this assumption audit and you're incorporating the practice into your team meetings to foster trust building and collaboration and yes, transparency, I want you to know that there's going to be a ripple effect. And the ripple effect of that is when leaders model that curiosity, which is taking this assessment to the team, you're being curious for their results, their outcomes, what's got them engaged, right? You're creating in that moment a culture where your team feels safe to question, to explore, and to innovate. And that ripple effect builds trust and drives collective growth and drives profit. It drives bottom line. It drives connectivity. It drives stamina. It drives engagement. It drives excitement in the workplace. So, yeah, do I think, on a hot summer day, walking through the office and passing out ice cream bars is a cool thing to do to kind of have people have the fun factor? Yes, but that doesn't build trust. That also doesn't necessarily build connection. It builds a feel good in the moment. But then what they want to see is, what are you going to do with that beyond that? How do you create that connection beyond that? Yes, those are fun things to do. And, right, it's a yes, and what else? So that you're developing your team, right? You're suspending judgment, which is also suspending assumptions. Stop assuming things, and you know what they say, whoever they are. Do you ever wonder, who are they? We have so many little things that we've said over the years and decades and generations of, but we associate it to they. Have you ever thought about that? Who are they? I don't know, but they, we'll go back to, I digress. You can build trust. You can build growth by doing an assumption, an audit assumption, and going through the workplace and having conversations with your team about what it is individually that drives them, that causes them to thrive and feel like they're connected in the team. So I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you today. Start your next meeting with this question for the whole team. What's an assumption that we might be making about our current challenge? When you have a challenge come up, if you can get on the wall and do some mind mapping about it, and then ask, what are the assumptions that we might be making about this challenge? Ask that and let the team answer. Sit silently, leader. Don't tell them. They might default to you, but sit silently. Let them actually answer the question. Because when we're checking assumptions with our team, it empowers not just you and doesn't just build trust, but by asking those questions instead of assuming, you are showing your team that you value their perspective and you value their input. And that is so key and important when it comes to addressing the assumptions, and we start asking more powerful questions. It's such a key to the success of team and to you as an individual. It will enhance decision making, because when you have accurate information to make smarter choices and fewer mistakes, what does that boost? Oh gosh, innovation, creativity, efficiencies, right? Bold curiosity invites new ideas, friends, and it invites viewpoints that challenge the status quo. And if you've listened to me for any period of time, you know I am boldly curious and I'm super passionate about challenging the status quo. But here's the other thing that it does. When we challenge our assumptions and we ask better questions and we get bold with our curiosity, we strengthen our relationships. And clarifying those assumptions that we have, being real. Once you go through that audit, the assumption audit that you're going to download, I want you to do this. I want you to then go back to the team and tell them the assumptions that you've made and acknowledge what you're going to do different as you clarify, and then you create the path forward so that you're improving your communication. And bottom line, you're no longer going to allow the assumptions to be shortcuts, the shortcuts that lead to making rash decisions or getting to an end result quicker. Being bold with your curiosity, on the other hand, it's going to be that compass, that's going to point you to the North Star that you have for your team, for that growth, for understanding, and for that connection. Because we know that leaders who regularly check their assumptions unlock not just their true potential, they unlock the true potential for the team, and they inspire their team to do the same. So thank you for joining me today in the Sandbox. I know that leadership isn't something that you're born with. It's something that you grow into, and you took time to grow into that next level of leadership in the Sandbox today, and I'm excited that you did. You're going to want to get to the show notes, click the link to download your Assumption Audit. Give it to yourself first. Get clear on you. You've got the powerful questions there as well that you can ask of self. Give them to your team and spend some time doing an assumption audit. And when we have those big projects or those big roadblocks, ask the question, if it looks like a roadblock, is it? Just because it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, does that mean it's a duck? Does it mean it's a roadblock? Or is it an assumption masquerading itself as something else? Well, there's a thought for you. Thanks for joining me today in the Sandbox. Thanks for taking time to grow into your next level of leadership. And I look forward to seeing you next time in the Leadership Sandbox. Make it a great day. God bless.